Hello and welcome students. I am here again with a new lesson. This syllabus is from Maharashtra State Board. We are going to learn Standard 3rd, Subject English, Unit 1, Chapter 5, The Story of Sindbad the Sailor. The Story of Sindbad the Sailor. The story of Sindbad and his 7 fantastic voyages appears in a huge collection of stories, the Book of 1001 Nights or the Arabian Nights. The story tells us that Sindbad was a famous sailor who lived in Baghdad. He was honest, generous, and brave. He had many adventures on each of his voyages. He never lost heart and hope in dangerous situations. He overcame great dangers and returned home safely from each of his voyages. Here's the story of his first voyage. The first voyage, Sindbad set sail with a company of merchants on a big ship. From time to time, they stopped at various ports. There, they sold their merchandise and bought new things to trade. Here, set sail with a company of merchants means he went with many companions and they stopped from one place to another. They sold whatever they had with them and in turn they bought new things also. One day, when the ship was sailing smoothly across the sea, they spotted a small island at a distance. They had not seen land for many days and felt both surprised and happy to see the island. They sailed close to the island. The captain of the ship allowed them to go there for a picnic. Everyone was excited. On the island, they strolled around, sang and danced. Some people began to wash clothes. Some lit fires to cook meals. In this paragraph, children, we have seen that when the ship was sailing across the sea, the people in the ship, they spotted an island. And when they saw an island, they were very happy and surprised to see it as they didn't see land for many days. So the captain of the ship allowed everyone to go for a picnic. And the people, as soon as they reached the island, they strolled around, sang and danced. Some people began to wash clothes, some lit fires to cook meals. Soon a breeze sprang up. The fires began to blaze. Suddenly, the land began to shake and move. With a shock, the picnic party realized that the island was not an island at all. They were on the back of a huge sea monster. And it had started moving. People began to scream. They left their pots and pans, their clothes, both washed and unwashed, and rushed back to the ship. The captain ordered his men to set sail immediately in order to move away from the monster. So, children, in this paragraph, what did we see? We saw that soon what happened? A breeze began to blow. Fire began to blaze strongly. The land began to shake and people enjoying picnic realized that the island was not an island but it was back of a huge sea monster. People began to scream and left their pots and pans, their washed and unwashed clothes and rushed back towards the ship. The captain ordered his men to set sail fast to move away from the monster. The sea monster plunged deep into the sea. Many of the people managed to climb aboard the ship, but many sank into the sea. With the so-called island, Sindbad alone did not drown in the sea, but he could not reach the ship. He saw it sailing far, far away. He was now at the mercy of the waves. Being tossed here and there, he clung to a piece of wood and somehow managed to keep afloat. He spent the whole night alone at sea. Now, the sea monster went deep into the sea. Some people could manage to climb the ship, but some could not and sank into the sea. But Sindbad was not drowned, but he did not reach the ship and was tossed with the waves here and there. Somehow he managed to hold tightly a piece of wood and kept floating the whole night alone. When the next day dawned, Sindbad was happy to see that he had floated near an island, a real big island. He could see hills and woods and trees at a distance. Though he was extremely tired, he swam to the shore with all the strength that he could muster. Exhausted and hungry, he lay on the sand for some time. Then again he made an effort and began to walk inland towards the shady fruit trees that he could see at a distance. So, children, in this paragraph, we have read that when the next day began, Sindbad was very happy to see that he has floated near an island. He could see hills, trees. He was extremely tired, but with all his strength, he could manage to swim towards the shore and made effort to walk towards the shady trees. Luckily, this was the time when the king of that island sent his horses to the seashore with the grooms. The grooms saw Sindbad and gave him food and drink. Then they took him to the king. The king was impressed by the way Sindbad told him about what had happened. He asked Sindbad to stay with him and work as an officer of the king at the port. So what had happened when Sindbad reached the seashore? Luckily, that time the king had sent his horses with grooms to the seashore. There the grooms saw him and gave him food and water and took him to the king. The king was impressed with his story and appointed him as an officer at the port. Sindbad stayed there for a few days, learning a lot from the king and the people on the island, and in turn telling them about the other cities and ports that he had visited. At the port, Sindbad often made enquiries about any ship coming from or going to Baghdad, but no such ship ever came to that port. Then one day a ship arrived at the island with a lot of merchandise. Sindbad was at the quay when the cargo from that ship was being unloaded. He was surprised to see that his own name was marked on some of the boxes. Then he went to see the captain of the ship. At first, the captain could not believe that it was the same Sindbad that they had seen drowning in the sea. But when Sindbad spoke to him face to face, he recognized him. He was overjoyed to see Sindbad alive. He gave him back all his merchandise. In this paragraphs, we have seen that Sindbad stayed few days with the king. There he learned a lot from the king and the people. He always visited the port and inquired about the ship coming and going from Baghdad. Then one day a ship arrived in the island. Sindbad was at the port when the ship was being unloaded, and surprisingly he saw that there were some boxes where he found his own name. He went to see the captain of the ship, and there they had a conversation face to face. The captain was overjoyed to see that Sindbad was alive and gave him back all his merchandise. From the goods that he thus got back, Sindbad presented the most valuable items to the king of the island, saying, "Please accept this, your majesty. You have been very kind and very generous to me." The king was pleased. He too gave Sindbad many valuable gifts when Sindbad left the island with the merchant ship. So, children, you have seen that the captain had returned all the goods to Sindbad, and Sindbad presented some valuable gifts to the king, and he thanked the king, saying that the king was very generous and kind to him, and in turn the king was also very happy and pleased with Sindbad, and the king also gifted him many valuable gifts. So, children, you have seen the lesson of Sindbad. If you want to know what happened to Sindbad afterwards, you have to read the rest of the story of his fantastic voyages. Let's see the hard words and their meaning. First word, merchandise. Merchandise means goods or things for sale. Second, trade, give in return for something sale. Strolled, walked here and there. Next, sprang up. Sprang up means began to blow suddenly. Blaze. Blaze means burn strongly. Afloat. Afloat means floating. Next word, quay. Quay means a platform in the port. Next, plunged. Plunged means jump or dive quickly. Next, clung. Clung means to hold on tightly. Thank you children. Thanks for watching the video.